We have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. But they shall serve the Lord their God, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them.
Welcome back. This is Looking at One. Now, the deadliest recorded Ebola outbreak surpassed 700 deaths across West Africa on Thursday, as the World Health Organization announced dozens of new deaths reported in the last several days. In Sierra Leone, President Ernest Bai Koroma vowed to quarantine sick patients at home and authorities conduct house-to-house searches for others who may have been exposed, as the country struggles with families resisting treatment at isolation centers. Some have kept loved ones at home given the high death rates at clinics where Ebola patients are quarantined. Ebola now has been blamed for 729 deaths in 4 West African countries this year and has shown no signs of slowing down, particularly in Liberia and Sierra Leone. Ebola cases first emerged in the nation of Guinea back in March and later across the borders to Sierra Leone and Liberia. The outbreak is now the largest recorded in world history and has infected 3 African capitals with international airports.
To try and stem the deadly Ebola spread through Sierra Leone, they've set up these checkpoints and they're doing some specific things to mitigate the risk. One is that people coming through, everybody has to wash their hands in a chlorine solution like this. Now, Ebola is a deadly disease, but it's not that sturdy, so this will probably kill it if it's on your hands. When you come through here, you need to get your temperature taken. .6, so I'm all right. Then what must I do next? I can go out. He says I must be careful. Stopping the spread of Ebola is so crucial both for Sierra Leone and for regional health concerns. But I want to show you why this is so difficult. This area here is just brimming with trade, and it's in a region where 3 countries meet, the Kissy Triangle. And people aren't just moving here, they're obviously just moving on footpaths and through the bush all the time. So it's next to impossible to effectively stem the flow if people who have the disease haven't been found out. Well, we just came out of that area, Aaron, and just a moment ago we learned that the police of that region are announcing a blockade of the entire eastern part of Sierra Leone. They say that there will be no movement allowed in or out. They say only suppliers with registered businesses and aid workers will be able to move in and out. It remains to be seen how strictly they enforce that, but it shows how seriously they're trying to stop the spread of Ebola through this country and beyond. Aaron?
You know, we're just talking to Dr. Fair, obviously they're the advisor in terms of this for the Sierra Leone government. He said, look, the truth is they're incredibly concerned. They're afraid. You, David, have had time to see doctors who are fighting this on the ground. And one of the most frightening and tragic aspects of this is the doctors who are now dying.
Well, that's right, and health workers are often at most risk in this kind of outbreak. That's been the case in previous outbreaks, but this is just so unprecedented that you've had scores of doctors and nurses dying just in Sierra Leone alone. We went past a hospital today in Kenema, in a large town in the eastern part of the country. You know, Doctors Without Borders told us in no uncertain terms were we to even move inside there and film because it was too dangerous. And they said that the protocols that were put in place at the early stage of this epidemic were not enough to protect the doctors there. And as we've been reporting, Sierra Leone's best-known expert on Ebola died at that hospital, and several others have as well. So it does appear that, you know, more knowledge and technical support is needed for the country teams to try and bring together their resources to help stem the tide.
And
And turning next to the fight against the Ebola outbreak, the virus is now feared to have spread to the Middle East, with the death of a 40-year-old Saudi man under observation for an Ebola infection. He died at a hospital in Jeddah Wednesday after returning from a business trip to Sierra Leone. His samples have been submitted to U.S. and German labs for testing. Meanwhile, new figures released by the WHO show in the period between Saturday and Monday, there were 108 new cases of Ebola and 45 additional deaths in Guinea, Liberia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. Liberia's president has declared a state of emergency. Appearing on national television late Wednesday local time, she said some civil rights may need to be suspended in order to get a handle on the outbreak. Liberia has recorded 282 Ebola deaths so far.
Just an update on that widespread Ebola outbreak in West Africa. Today, the emergency coordinator for Doctors Without Borders made a plea for more international help in Sierra Leone. That's where we've seen the largest number of cases since this outbreak began, although as you can see from this map, other areas such as Guinea and Liberia are also getting hit hard. CNN's David McKenzie is live in Calhoun, Sierra Leone, where he spoke to some Ebola patients and the doctors who are treating them. David, you also got access to the largest medical facility there, where a bulk of the patients are being treated. Tell us about it.
Well, that's right, Jake, and though the bulk of the patients are there are many patients or many sufferers who might just be out there in the villages in this area that haven't been found. There's a sense from Doctors Without Borders, Jake, that this situation is out of control, and with all the heroic efforts they're doing to save patients and to quarantine patients, it's just not enough. I spoke to one woman who lost her husband and her son. It appears she's actually recovering. Some 30% do recover, but she said that this is just decimating communities and that she's going to fight to survive. So very serious situation there. Jake?
And David, talk to us about the level of response that you're seeing.
Well, the response by the Doctors Without Borders teams here is incredible, but they just cannot meet the demand to face this outbreak. It's incredibly complicated because it's in 3 separate countries in this area, in a border region where people move back and forth. So yes, it's difficult to combat, but there is a sense from many I've spoken to that the governments were too slow, that they didn't deal with this in the early stages, and especially here in Sierra Leone, they might not have dealt with it when it was really crucial. Now it's out of hand. They like to say they want to step one step ahead of an outbreak to stamp it out. I was told today they are 3 steps behind, and this could never end. Forget the 6 months. This could never end if they don't get more help in here to try and stamp it out, and that, of course, has regional and global health implications. Jake?
Liberia has declared a state of emergency as it's struggling to contain this deadly outbreak of Ebola.
With more, we now turn to Paul Yee at the News Center. Paul, health authorities in West Africa say they're overwhelmed by this growing epidemic, with fears that the virus has reached as far as the Middle East.
Right, and that's what Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf stressed on Thursday when she spoke about the clear and present danger from this rapidly spreading disease. Sirleaf warned that extraordinary measures were needed for what she described as the very survival of the state, adding that some civil liberties may be suspended over the next 90 days. This as the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued its highest level alert for the health crisis.
Medical doctors, they were not getting access to the patients because they have been attacked. And then we also wanted to restrict some of the movement so as to be able to give chance to take to be able to control the disease.
Meanwhile, the Saudi health ministry said a 40-year-old Saudi Arabian man died of a heart attack on Wednesday while under observation for an Ebola infection. According to the World Health Organization, the death toll from the deadly fever has surpassed 930, with most cases reported in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone.
Police state.
Ask one of them why they're here.
What's up, nigga? Police state. Police state, man. Police state.
4th of July. Here's our video. M16s.
Because we don't live in a police state, sir. Martial law has not been established.
November 1st could be a very, very, well, iffy kind of a day. And I'm not just talking about what many in the Catholic Church view as All Saints' Day. This could be all hell breaks loose.
You're gonna kick my door. You kicked my door down. You kicked my door down. You kicked my door down. No, you have no right to be in here. You have no right to be in here. You have no right to be here. You have no right to be in here. Do not touch her. You are assaulting her.
Security spending $80 million on a raft of armed guards to protect the IRS and other government buildings in New York. Not from terrorist threats, mind you, but from American citizens, because on November 1st, the food stamp program is set to start decreasing the amount that is allocated to food stamp recipients. Not all, but a good many, and they're worried that violence...
Yeah, I didn't open up the door. I would open up... Now they're barging in my door for one reason! Down, grab it down, grab it down, grab it down! Down, 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 to your hands! Hands, come to me, come to me, come to me! Now, don't move!
Story headline: Chase Bank limits cash withdrawals, bans international wires.
The law take effect across the country. And more importantly, will people just accept it entirely out of fear?
It was never meant that we would have this gigantic police force from the federal government. I mean, we had martial law up there, FBI and all these agents coming in and closing things down, going into people's houses.
The police state is staring us in the eye, and it's getting more and more imposed upon us and more imposed on society every day. More and more people are waking up faster and faster and faster.